Hello, and welcome to History at Bedtime. Somewhere in the landscape of ancient Greece, before the marble temples became ruins and before the myths became literature, a cup of wine was lifted above an altar. The place might have been a mountainside where goats picked their way between stones. It might have been a grove of dark trees beside a spring. It might have been a small shrine at the edge of a field, or a great sanctuary where people had walked for days to ask a god for help. The priest, or the head of a household, or a woman carrying offerings in a procession, spoke a name into the air. Zeus, Hera, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Demeter, Poseidon, Hermes, Aphrodite, Dionysus. The name was not only a word, it was a crossing point. To speak the name of a god was to acknowledge that the world was not empty. The wind had powers behind it. The sea had moods. The harvest had a mistress. The city had a guardian. Birth, marriage, war, desire, sickness, prophecy, law, music, madness, craft, death, and luck were not merely events. They were places where the human world touched a divine one. The gods of Olympus are among the most familiar figures in ancient history. Their names survive in art museums, astronomy, psychology, literature, brand names, film, poetry, and children's books. Zeus still throws thunderbolts in the imagination. Athena still stands for wisdom. Aphrodite still means beauty. Ares still means war. Hermes still carries messages. Dionysus still raises the cup. Their stories have been told so often that they can seem almost too familiar. And yet the ancient gods are harder to understand than their familiarity suggests. They were not invented simply to entertain. They were not only characters in stories. They were not moral examples in the way later traditions often wanted holy figures to be moral examples. They were worshipped. They were feared. They were thanked. They were bribed, honored, invoked, blamed, praised, celebrated, and approached with caution. They received animals, garlands, incense, cakes, wine, songs, athletic contests, theater, vows, and prayers. They were present in houses and fields, in city assemblies and battlefields, at weddings and funerals, at sea and at the city gate. For the ancient Greeks, the divine was not far away in a perfect realm untouched by human life. The divine was close, vivid, dangerous, and everywhere. A farmer worried about grain might think of Demeter. A sailor looking at dark water might think of Poseidon. A pregnant woman might pray to Artemis or Eileithyia. A general before battle might sacrifice to Athena or Zeus. A young man traveling strange roads might hope for Hermes. A city facing plague might send to Apollo. A household might keep fire for Hestia. A grieving family might make offerings to the dead and to the powers below the earth. A poet could call upon the muses because song itself required divine breath. Greek religion was not one book, one church, one creed, or one central authority. It was a living field of practices spread across hundreds of communities, islands, valleys, colonies, and cities. Athens had its gods and festivals. Sparta had its gods and festivals. Delphi, Olympia, Eleusis, Delos, Dodona, Epidaurus, and many smaller places had their own sacred histories. The same god could feel different from one city to another. Athena in Athens was not exactly Athena everywhere. Artemis at Broron was not only Artemis in the abstract. Apollo at Delphi had a voice no other Apollo quite had. That distinction matters. The Greeks had mythology, but they also had religion. Myth told stories about the gods. Religion maintained relationships with them. The two overlapped, but they were not identical. A child could hear how Zeus defeated the Titans. A city could sacrifice to Zeus as protector of oaths. A poet could sing of Aphrodite destroying a royal house with desire. A bride could pray to Aphrodite for marriage. A philosopher could criticize the myths and still participate in public rituals. The divine world was not a neat system. It was a crowded, ancient, flexible inheritance. The gods themselves were immortal, but not infinite. They did not die as mortals die. They did not age into weakness. They did not suffer hunger and exhaustion as human beings did. Their bodies were more radiant, their senses sharper, their movements swifter, their power greater. But they were not all-powerful. They could be deceived. They could quarrel. They could be wounded in epic poetry. They could desire what they should not desire. They could be angry for reasons that seemed small and punish beyond proportion. They could help one person and ruin another. This was not a flaw in the Greek imagination. It was one of its most unsettling insights. The Greeks did not imagine a universe in which power and goodness were always the same thing. They knew that the world was beautiful and unjust, ordered and violent, fertile and destructive. Their gods reflected that world. Divine power did not guarantee moral comfort. A god could protect a city and still behave badly in a story. A goddess could embody marriage and still be terrifying in jealousy. A god of prophecy could heal and also send plague. A goddess of love could bring joy and catastrophe in the same gift. The gods were human-shaped, and that mattered. They had faces, bodies, voices, tempers, preferences, and histories. They sat at banquets. They chose sides. They loved, desired, plotted, argued, laughed, and took offense. Their human form did not make them ordinary. It made them intelligible. A thunderstorm is terrifying, but a thunderstorm with a name can be addressed. The sea is indifferent, but Poseidon can be offered a sacrifice. Desire is overwhelming, but Aphrodite can be honored. Death is silent, but Hermes can guide a soul. This is why Olympus was a divine society. It was not a single will. It was a family and a court full of authority, rivalry, dependence, insult, and negotiation. Zeus ruled, but he did not erase the other gods. Hera resisted. Athena advised and acted. Poseidon resented. Apollo spoke. Artemis guarded her own sphere. Aphrodite destabilized. Hermes crossed boundaries. Dionysus unsettled the city and then gave it release. Hephaestus worked at the forge. Demeter could stop the fertility of the earth through grief. Hestia, often quiet in myth, held the center of the home. The number 12 became associated with the Olympians, but the list was never as simple as a modern chart. Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Demeter, Athena, Apollo, Artemis, Ares, Aphrodite, Hephaestus, Hermes, and either Hestia or Dionysus formed the familiar pattern. Hades, though Zeus's brother and one of the great powers of the cosmos, usually did not belong among the Olympians because his realm was below, not on Olympus. Local traditions varied. Images and cults varied. The divine world was not a school diagram. It was a landscape. To enter that landscape, one must begin before Olympus. The Greek gods themselves had a past. In Hesiod's Theogony, one of the great poems of divine origin, the first beings are not the Olympians, but primordial powers: chaos, earth, sky, night, abyss, love. The universe begins as a genealogy of forces. Gaia, the earth, brings forth Uranus, the sky. Their children include the Titans, vast older powers whose age belongs before the reign of Zeus. Cronus, one of the Titans, overthrows his father Uranus. Then Cronus, fearing that his own children will overthrow him, swallows them as they are born. It is a brutal image. Divine history begins in violence between generations. The sky is overthrown by his son. The son tries to prevent the future by consuming his children. Power fears succession. The old order tries to devour the new. Rhea, wife of Cronus and mother of his children, saves the youngest, Zeus, by giving Cronus a stone wrapped like an infant. Zeus grows in secrecy, returns, forces Cronus to disgorge the swallowed gods, and leads the younger generation in war against the Titans. The Titanomachy, the War of Gods, ends with Zeus and his siblings victorious. The Titans are cast down into Tartarus, and the cosmos is divided. Zeus receives the sky, Poseidon the sea, Hades the underworld. Earth and Olympus remain places of shared concern and contest. This myth of succession gave the Greeks a universe that had not always been stable. Order was achieved, not assumed. The gods ruling now had themselves come to power through struggle. Behind the beautiful gods of marble and song lay an older darkness: castration, swallowing, imprisonment, rebellion, thunder, and cosmic war. Olympus was bright because it had survived the abyss. Zeus stands at the center of that brightness and that violence. His name reaches back to an ancient Indo-European sky god. In Greek religion, he is the father of gods and men, the gatherer of clouds, the wielder of thunder, the god whose eagle moves in the high air and whose lightning makes visible the will of the sky. But Zeus is not only weather. He is kingship, order, oaths, law, supplication, hospitality, and the fragile structure that keeps human communities from collapsing into force. Zeus Xenios protects guests and strangers. Zeus Horkios guards oaths. Zeus Hikisios protects suppliants. Zeus Pelus watches the city. Zeus Soter can be invoked as savior. These titles show how wide his reach was. The same god who appears in myths pursuing mortal women in forms of bull, swan, golden rain, or disguised man is also the god invoked when a stranger enters a house and needs protection from violence. The same Zeus whose desires create trouble is also the Zeus before whom liars and oath breakers tremble. This is not easy to reconcile, and ancient Greeks did not always make it easy. They lived with the contradiction. Zeus represented sovereign power, and sovereign power can protect and violate. It can maintain order and break the ordinary rules. The myths do not hide this. They expose the unease at the center of authority. Hera, queen of Olympus, is too often reduced to jealousy. She is jealous in myth, and she can be terrifying. But her anger is connected to her divine sphere. Hera governs marriage, legitimate union, the dignity of the wife, the social and sacred bond that gives household and lineage their shape. Zeus repeatedly violates that bond. Hera's rage is not only personal bitterness. It is the divine principle of marriage reacting to the divine principle of sovereign desire. In stories, Hera persecutes Zeus's lovers and children. Io suffers. Semele dies. Heracles is tormented from before birth. To modern ears, this can seem monstrously unfair. Heracles did not choose his father. Io did not deserve divine pursuit. But myth often works by showing the damage created when powers collide. Hera is not a lesson in kindness. She is the wound of violated marriage given divine form. In cult, Hera could be majestic, protective, and deeply important to women and cities. Her great sanctuary at Argos, the Heraeon, was one of the oldest and most important sacred places in Greece. On Samos, Hera had a major cult of great antiquity. She was not merely the angry wife of stories. She was a queen, a guardian of marriage, a goddess whose dignity could not be separated from the social order she upheld. Poseidon, brother of Zeus, ruled the sea, earthquakes, and horses. His power was older feeling, rougher, and less civic than Zeus's. The sea made Greek civilization possible. Greece is a land of islands, peninsulas, gulfs, harbors, and dangerous crossings. Ships carried grain, colonists, soldiers, trade, news, and poetry. But the sea could take everything without explanation. A calm horizon could become a grave in a single storm. Poseidon embodied that uncertainty. He could be honored by sailors and feared by them in the same breath. He shook the earth, and the Greeks knew the terror of earthquakes. He was linked to horses, creatures of speed, nobility, and danger. In myth, he is powerful, proud, and often unforgiving. His anger at Odysseus drives much of the Odyssey. Odysseus blinds Polyphemus, the Cyclops and son of Poseidon, and the god's revenge stretches the hero's journey into years of suffering. The point is not that Poseidon is fair. The sea is not fair. A wave does not ask whether a sailor deserves drowning. A storm does not weigh innocence. Poseidon gave divine personality to that fact. Humans could sacrifice, pray, and hope. They could not command. Demeter, sister of Zeus, gave grain and the cultivated fertility on which ordinary life depended. Among all the Olympian powers, few were more important to survival. A city can survive without beauty for a time. It cannot survive without bread. Demeter's power was not glamorous in the same way as Athena's armor or Aphrodite's beauty, but it was fundamental. The field, the seed, the growth of grain, the cycle that made human settlement possible, these belonged to her. Her great myth is grief. Her daughter Persephone is taken by Hades into the underworld. Demeter searches, mourns, refuses comfort, and in her grief the earth becomes barren. Humans begin to starve. The gods themselves are threatened, because without human beings, who will sacrifice? Zeus must negotiate. Persephone returns for part of the year, but remains bound to the underworld for another part. The seasons become a divine family arrangement, a compromise between loss and return. This myth is powerful because it explains agriculture through emotion. Winter is not merely cold. It is grief. Spring is not merely growth. It is reunion. The earth itself becomes a mother whose inner life shapes the year. At Eleusis, near Athens, Demeter and Persephone were worshipped in the Eleusinian Mysteries, one of the most important religious rites of the ancient Mediterranean. Initiates came from many places. They underwent rituals whose exact content was kept secret. Ancient writers speak with awe of the transformation the mysteries gave to one's hope after death. We know processions, fasting, sacred objects, words, and dramatic revelation were involved, but the central secret remains hidden because the ancient vow of silence largely held. That silence is part of their power. A religion that valued public sacrifice also preserved sacred things that were not for public speech. Hades, though not usually counted among the Olympians, cannot be left outside the story. He ruled the dead. His realm was not hell in the later Christian sense, though Tartarus within the underworld could be a place of punishment. Hades was the hidden one, the receiver of all mortals. He was not often worshipped with the casual familiarity given to other gods. His name itself could be avoided. People used titles like Platon, the wealthy one, because all richness beneath the earth, including seeds and metals, lay in his domain. The Greek afterlife in Homer is shadowy and bleak. The dead are shades, deprived of the strength and brightness of life. Achilles in the Odyssey famously says he would rather be a poor laborer among the living than lord over all the dead. Later traditions offered more varied possibilities: Elysium for the blessed, punishments for great offenders, mystery cult hopes, philosophical speculations about the soul. But the presence of death remained stark. The gods were immortal. Humans were not. This difference defined everything. Athena is born from the head of Zeus, fully armed. The image is strange and unforgettable. Intelligence springing from sovereignty, wisdom emerging as a warrior. Athena is not wisdom in the abstract. She is practical intelligence. She is strategy, craft, disciplined war, weaving, planning, technical skill, and clear-eyed restraint. She stands beside heroes not by making them wild, but by helping them think. In the Iliad, Athena supports the Greeks and opposes Troy. In the Odyssey, she protects Odysseus, not because he is morally flawless, but because he is clever, enduring, and resourceful. He is the kind of mortal Athena favors, one who survives through mind as much as strength. She helps warriors, craftsmen, city builders, and thinkers. Her wisdom is active. It makes things. Athens claimed her as patron through the famous contest with Poseidon. Poseidon struck the rock and gave a salt spring, or in some versions a horse. Athena gave the olive tree. The Athenians chose the olive, symbol of food, oil, wood, light, peace, wealth, and cultivated life. The myth is not only about two gods competing. It is a declaration of what Athens wanted to believe about itself, that its greatness came from intelligence joined to usefulness. The Parthenon, built in the 5th century BCE after the Persian Wars, was not simply a beautiful building. It was a political, religious, artistic, and imperial statement. Inside stood the great gold and ivory statue of Athena Parthenos, made by Phidias, now lost. The building honored Athena, celebrated Athenian identity, displayed wealth, and transformed civic confidence into marble. Its sculptural program placed gods, myths, and the city in a relationship of astonishing ambition. Athens did not imagine its goddess as distant. Athena was at the center of what the city believed itself to be. Apollo is more complicated than the simple label sun god suggests. In early Greek religion, Helios was the sun who drove across the sky. Apollo later became increasingly associated with solar brightness, but his older and central powers were prophecy, music, healing, purification, archery, plague, order, and youthful beauty. He is a god of clarity, but clarity can wound. Apollo sends plague on the Greek army in the Iliad because Agamemnon dishonors his priest. The arrows of Apollo bring sickness. Yet Apollo is also connected to healing, and his son Asclepius becomes the great divine healer. Apollo can purify blood guilt, but he can also expose it. He presides over music and the lyre, but his music is disciplined, measured, and luminous. He is a god of form. His sanctuary at Delphi was one of the great centers of the Greek world. People came to ask questions. Should a city found a colony? Should a king go to war? How should a pollution be cleansed? What does the god require? The Pythia, Apollo's priestess, spoke in inspired utterance, and her words were interpreted by priests. Delphic responses were often ambiguous, not because the god was weak, but because human understanding was weak. The famous command, "Know thyself," was not gentle self-help. It was a warning. Remember what you are. Do not confuse mortal sight with divine knowledge. Delphi itself was more than an oracle. It was a sanctuary, a meeting point, a treasury of city offerings, a place where Greek communities displayed wealth and devotion. It stood on a dramatic mountain slope beneath the cliffs of Parnassus. The setting mattered. To approach Delphi was to feel geography turning sacred. Artemis, Apollo's twin sister, belongs to wildness, hunting, young animals, childbirth, girls before marriage, and dangerous transitions. Like Apollo, she was later associated with a celestial body, in her case the moon, but Selene was the older distinct moon goddess. Artemis should not be flattened into a lunar figure alone. She is wilder than that. She protects boundaries. She stands where civilization meets the untamed. Young girls served her in rites before entering adult womanhood. Women in childbirth invoked her because birth was a threshold between life and death. Hunters honored her because killing in the wild required permission and restraint. She could protect children and destroy them. Her arrows brought sudden death, especially to women, just as Apollo's arrows brought sudden death to men. The story of Actaeon shows her danger. He sees Artemis bathing, whether by accident or transgression, depending on the version, and she transforms him into a stag. His own hounds tear him apart. The myth is severe because Artemis's separateness is severe. Some spaces cannot be entered without cost. Some powers defend their boundaries absolutely. Aphrodite is another power modern readers often soften too much. She is not merely romance. She is desire, beauty, sexual attraction, persuasion, longing, and the force that makes bodies and minds move toward what they cannot fully control. Her power can delight, generate life, join lovers, and bring joy. It can also ruin judgment, shatter households, provoke war, and expose the helplessness of reason before desire. In Hesiod, Aphrodite is born from sea foam after the severed genitals of Uranus fall into the sea. It is a violent origin for beauty, as if the Greeks understood that desire rises from deep and dangerous places. In Homer, she is the daughter of Zeus and Dion. Greek tradition allowed such variations. The goddess remains what she is, irresistible. The judgment of Paris is a myth about the danger of gifts. Hera offers power. Athena offers victory or wisdom in war. Aphrodite offers the most beautiful woman in the world. Paris chooses Aphrodite, receives Helen, and the Trojan War follows. The story can be read as blame, desire, divine rivalry, and the fragility of human order. Helen is not merely a prize. She is the sign that beauty can become a force greater than cities. Ares, god of war, is not the war Greeks admired most. He is battle rage, bloodlust, panic, the scream and collision of combat. He is necessary because war exists, but he is not noble in the same way Athena can be noble. Athena governs strategy, discipline, and purposeful force. Ares is violence boiling over. In the Iliad, Ares is wounded and complains. Zeus rebukes him as hateful, double-faced, and quarrelsome. This is striking. The Greeks were not pacifists. Their world was filled with war, but they distinguished between controlled, intelligent force and sheer delight in destruction. Ares represents the part of war even warriors fear in themselves. His affair with Aphrodite, trapped and exposed by Hephaestus, links war and desire in a comic but meaningful way. Violence and erotic force are both destabilizing. They ignore ordinary boundaries. They make people ridiculous, dangerous, and vulnerable. The gods laugh, but the laughter does not make the powers harmless. Hephaestus, the divine smith, is one of the most moving Olympians because he is physically different from the others. He is lame, thrown from Olympus in some myths, rejected or mocked, yet his hands create wonders. He forges weapons, armor, thrones, jewelry, automatons, and beautiful objects beyond mortal skill. He turns fire and metal into form. His workshop is a sacred place of labor. The gods of Olympus may feast, but Hephaestus works. His divinity is not effortless radiance, but craft. He shows that beauty can come from heat, hammering, patience, and pain. In a culture that prized athletic bodies, the lame god of making holds a profound counter-image, the imperfect body producing perfect things. The shield of Achilles, forged by Hephaestus in the Iliad, is one of the greatest images in ancient poetry. On it he makes a whole world, cities at peace and war, fields, vineyards, dancing, stars, ocean. A weapon carries the image of civilization. The god of craft understands that even war exists within a larger world of making, harvest, marriage, law, music, and dance. Hermes is movement. He is born at dawn, invents the lyre, steals Apollo's cattle, lies charmingly, negotiates his way into honor, and becomes messenger of the gods. He crosses boundaries as easily as others cross rooms. He belongs to roads, merchants, thieves, shepherds, luck, language, exchange, and the guidance of souls to the underworld. His trickery is not merely moral failure. It is boundary intelligence. A messenger must move between powers. A traitor must pass between strangers. A thief knows the hidden paths of property. A guide of souls crosses the line between life and death. Hermes is quick because the world is full of thresholds, and someone must know how to pass them. At crossroads and doorways, Greeks set up Hermes, stone markers associated with Hermes, often with a head and a phallic form. These were protective, boundary marking, fertility-bearing, and public. In Athens, the mutilation of Hermes before the Sicilian expedition caused political panic because damaging sacred boundary markers threatened more than stone. It suggested disorder entering the civic body. Dionysus is wine, ecstasy, theater, masks, possession, ivy, wild music, and the loosening of the self. He is often presented as an outsider arriving from elsewhere, though evidence suggests his worship was very old in Greek lands. This tension is part of his nature. Dionysus is both native and foreign, familiar and strange, joy-bringer and destroyer. Wine itself explains him. Wine can warm, socialize, bless, inspire, and release grief. It can also degrade, madden, and tear apart restraint. Dionysus does not politely improve the city. He reveals what the city has suppressed. His followers, the Maenads, leave the house and dance on mountains. In myth, those who deny him suffer terribly. Pentheus in Euripides' Bacchae tries to control or expose the god and is torn apart by his own mother in Dionysian frenzy. Theater in Athens grew from festivals of Dionysus. Tragedy and comedy were religious events as well as artistic ones. Citizens gathered to watch stories of kings, heroes, gods, murder, grief, justice, and ruin. The city looked at itself through masks. Under Dionysus, suffering became performance, and performance became a way for a community to experience terror without being destroyed by it. Hestia is easy to overlook because she has few dramatic myths. That is exactly why she matters. Hestia is the hearth. She is the stable fire at the center of the home and the city. Every household needed fire. Every meal, offering, warmth, and gathering depended on it. In public life, the civic hearth symbolized the continuity of the community. Colonists carried fire from the mother city to found a new one. Hestia's quietness is not weakness. It is centrality without drama. Stories full of scandal and battle often overshadow quieter sacred powers, but a Greek house could live more daily with Hestia than with many louder gods. The divine did not only appear in lightning, prophecy, or ecstasy. It appeared in the flame around which people ate. Greek religion was lived through practice. To be pious was not primarily to confess a doctrine. It was to honor the gods properly. Sacrifice, libation, prayer, festival, procession, purification, vow, and offering formed the grammar of religious life. A person could speculate about the gods, doubt stories, or prefer philosophical explanations, but neglecting ritual obligations could be dangerous because the relationship between humans and gods required maintenance. Sacrifice stood at the center. An animal was led to the altar, sprinkled, prayed over, and killed. Its blood marked the seriousness of the act. Portions were burned for the gods. The meat was shared by humans. A sacrifice could be solemn, communal, violent, festive, and practical all at once. The gods received honor and smoke. People received meat and fellowship. Religion, politics, and social life met at the altar. The myth of Prometheus explains the division. Prometheus tricks Zeus by arranging bones wrapped in shining fat and good meat hidden unattractively. Zeus chooses the bones and fat, establishing the portion burned for the gods. The myth is playful and dangerous. It explains why humans eat meat while gods receive smoke. It also explains why Zeus withholds fire and why Prometheus steals it back for humanity, bringing punishment. Sacrifice, fire, trickery, and human dependency all meet in one story. A libation was simpler but no less meaningful. Wine, water, milk, honey, or oil poured out to a god, a hero, or the dead. To pour liquid onto the ground is to give up what could be consumed. it is a small surrender. It marks the earth as a place where human action reaches below or above itself. In Greek life, libations could accompany meals, departures, treaties, prayers, and mourning. Prayer had structure. The worshipper called the god by name and epithet, reminded the god of past offerings or connection, made a request, and promised future honor. Greek prayer could be intimate, but it was also reciprocal. Humans gave, gods might give. The relationship was not one of equality, but neither was it pure passivity. Mortals approached divine power with gifts, memory, and expectation. Purification mattered because pollution, or miasma, could cling to people and communities. Bloodshed, birth, death, and certain transgressions required ritual cleansing. This was not hygiene in the modern sense, though water might be involved. It was a condition of religious and social danger. A murderer, even an unwilling one, could carry pollution. A city could be polluted. The gods required that boundaries between clean and unclean be respected. Greek religion also belonged to the calendar. Festivals punctuated the year. The Panathenea honored Athena and Athens with procession, sacrifice, competitions, and the presentation of a woven robe. The great Dionysia honored Dionysus with drama. The Thesmophoria involved women in rites for Demeter, and Persephone connected to fertility and civic continuity. The Olympic Games honored Zeus. The Pythian Games honored Apollo. The Isthmian Games honored Poseidon. Sacred time created community. At Olympia, athletes competed under the eye of Zeus. The games were not secular sport in the modern sense. Athletic excellence honored the god and displayed the beauty and discipline of the human body. Victors received crowns, songs, statues, and glory. Cities took pride in them. A foot race, a wrestling match, a chariot race could become part of divine celebration. The body itself became an offering of training. Panhellenic sanctuaries helped hold the Greek world together. The Greeks were politically fragmented, often violently so. Athens fought Sparta. Cities envied, insulted, allied, betrayed, and conquered one another. Yet at Olympia, Delphi, Nemea, and Isthmia, Greek communities could meet under divine protection. Sacred truces allowed travel. Dedications displayed wealth. Shared myths and gods gave the divided Greek world moments of common identity. But religion was also intensely local. A small shrine at a spring could matter as much to a village as Delphi mattered to kings. A hero's tomb could protect a city. A local goddess might have an old name and old rites never fully absorbed into Olympian stories. Nymphs inhabited springs, caves, trees, and mountains. River gods had local power. Pan haunted wild places. The divine world was not only Olympus. It was everywhere the landscape felt alive. Heroes occupied the middle ground between mortals and gods. They had died, but their power remained. Heracles, Theseus, Achilles, Oedipus, Perseus, Asclepius, and many others received cult. Their tombs could protect communities. Their stories explained identity. A city might claim a hero as ancestor, defender, or source of prestige. Hero cult made the past active. The dead did not merely remain behind. They could still influence the living. Heracles is the greatest example. Born of Zeus and the mortal Alcmene, persecuted by Hera, driven mad, stained by the killing of his own children, condemned to labors, he becomes the strongest and most suffering of heroes. He kills monsters, cleans filth, captures impossible creatures, descends toward death, and finally dies in agony from a poisoned garment. Yet he is also taken to Olympus and made divine. His story holds brutality, service, guilt, endurance, and elevation. Heroism, for the Greeks, was rarely clean. Asclepius, son of Apollo, became a healing hero and god whose sanctuaries attracted the sick. At Epidaurus and elsewhere, people sought cures through ritual, sleep, dreams, offerings, and divine encounter. Inscriptions record healings, some miraculous, some strange, some deeply human in their hope. A sick person lying in a sanctuary, waiting for a dream from the healing god, shows another face of Greek religion, not public glory, but vulnerability. The gods entered politics because the city itself was sacred. Decisions about war, colonies, laws, and purification might require consultation with oracles. Oaths called gods as witnesses. Treaties invoked divine punishment for violation. Assemblies opened with sacrifice. Armies sacrificed before battle. Founding a colony required sacred fire, divine sanction, and ritual continuity. There was no clean separation between religion and public life. The polis was a religious community as well as a political one. At Delphi, Apollo's oracle could shape history. Croesus of Lydia famously asked whether he should attack Persia and received an answer that if he did, he would destroy a great empire. He attacked and destroyed his own. The story may be shaped by Herodotus, but its lesson is Delphic. Divine speech is dangerous because humans hear what they want. The oracle does not only reveal the future, it reveals the mind of the questioner. At Dodona, Zeus spoke through the rustling of oak leaves, bronze vessels, or priestly interpretation. The image is different from Delphi, not a radiant Apollo speaking through a priestess in a mountain sanctuary, but an older, earthier Zeus in the sound of trees. Greek religion preserved many ways for gods to speak because the divine did not have one voice. Women had vital roles in Greek religion even where political life excluded them. Priestesses served important cults. Women participated in festivals unavailable to men. The Pythia at Delphi was a woman through whom Apollo's voice came. The priestess of Athena Polias in Athens held a position of great prestige. Ritual gave women forms of public sacred authority that politics often denied. Greek religion did not make women equal, but it gave them indispensable roles. The domestic world also had its gods. Marriage involved divine attention from Hera, Aphrodite, Artemis, Zeus, and local powers. Birth required protection. Children were introduced into household and civic life through rituals. The dead received offerings. Ancestors mattered. The house was not a private secular space. It was full of sacred obligations. The dead lived in memory and ritual. Families visited graves, poured libations, left offerings, and maintained bonds. The dead could be honored, appeased, feared, or neglected at risk. Funeral rites mattered because improper burial was a horror. In the Iliad, Achilles' treatment of Hector's body is shocking because the body must be returned to ritual order. In Sophocles' Antigone, the duty to bury a brother becomes a conflict between divine law and royal command. The dead made claims on the living. Myth gave those claims narrative form. The story of Orpheus and Eurydice speaks to grief and the impossible desire to reverse death. Orpheus descends to the underworld through music, persuades Hades and Persephone, and nearly brings Eurydice back, but loses her by looking too soon. The myth endures because it knows the cruelty of almost. It knows that love wants to turn around even when warned not to. Greek myth often tells the truth through danger. Icarus flies too close to the sun and falls. Narcissus falls in love with his own reflection. Niobe boasts of her children and loses them to Apollo and Artemis. Actaeon sees what he should not see. Semele asks to see Zeus in full divine form and is destroyed by the sight. These are not simple moral fables. They are studies of limit. Mortals must know where they stand. The word hubris is often used casually now, but in Greek thought it carried serious weight. Hubris was not merely pride. It was overstepping, violent arrogance, the refusal to recognize limits before gods, humans, and order. The gods punished hubris because the world required boundaries. A mortal who tried to become equal to the gods threatened the structure of reality. Greek myth returns again and again to the lesson. Excellence is glorious, but overreach is fatal. Arachne challenges Athena in weaving and produces work of astonishing skill. In some versions, her tapestry exposes the gods' abuses. Athena destroys the work and transforms Arachne into a spider. The myth is uneasy because Arachne may be talented and even truthful, yet she is punished. It reveals Greek admiration for excellence and fear of defiance. To be too good without reverence is dangerous. Prometheus, too, is not simply a hero of progress. He helps humanity through trickery and fire, but his gifts bring suffering as well as advancement. Zeus responds with Pandora, whose jar releases evils into the human world. Fire makes civilization possible: cooking, metalwork, warmth, sacrifice. But the myth ties civilization to divine conflict. Human progress begins in theft. Pandora herself has often been blamed as the woman who brought suffering. A richer reading sees her as part of a myth about the cost of human life after the rupture between Zeus and Prometheus. She is beautiful, crafted by gods, irresistible, and dangerous. Like many Greek myths, the story reflects ancient gender anxieties, but it also shows a world in which beauty and harm arrive together. Hope remains in the jar, ambiguous and haunting. Greek religion did not remain untouched by thought. From early times, poets, philosophers, and critics wrestled with the gods. Homer and Hesiod gave the Greeks their most influential divine stories, but they also made the gods morally troubling. Later thinkers noticed. Xenophanes mocked the idea that gods look and behave like humans, saying that if horses or cattle could paint, they would paint gods like horses or cattle. He imagined a divine reality unlike mortal bodies and passions. This critique did not end Greek religion. It deepened the conversation. Philosophers could question the myths while rituals continued. Plato objected to stories that made gods immoral, especially as education for the young. In the Republic, he wanted divine stories purified so gods would be presented as good and unchanging. Aristotle described an unmoved mover, a divine intellect utterly unlike Zeus hurling thunder or falling in love. Philosophical divinity became more abstract, perfect, and remote. Yet people still sacrificed. Cities still held festivals. Travelers still asked oracles. The old gods did not vanish because philosophers refined theology. Human beings need more than abstract perfection. They need stories, rites, places, bodies, songs, meals, calendars, and names to speak in fear. Greek religion and Greek philosophy coexisted in tension because they answered different needs. Tragedy explored that tension with unmatched force. Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides did not treat myths as simple entertainment. They placed inherited stories under pressure. What is justice when blood demands blood? What happens when divine command conflicts with civic law? Are the gods just? Can humans understand suffering? Why do noble people fall? Tragedy took the gods seriously enough to question them. In Aeschylus' Orestia, a chain of revenge begins with the sacrifice of Iphigenia, passes through the murder of Agamemnon, the revenge of Orestes, and the pursuit by the Furies, then ends in Athens with a new court and Athena's judgment. The play transforms blood vengeance into civic justice. The old powers are not destroyed, they are incorporated. The terrifying Furies become the Eumenides, the kindly ones. This is Greek religion thinking politically through drama. In Sophocles' Oedipus, prophecy cannot be escaped because the attempt to escape it becomes the path to fulfillment. Oedipus is intelligent, brave, and determined to save his city, yet he discovers that he is the pollution he seeks. Apollo's truth is unbearable, but truth remains divine. Human intelligence reaches its limit at the moment it solves the riddle of itself. Euripides is often more unsettling. His gods can appear cruel, distant, or morally ambiguous. In the Bacchae, Dionysus destroys Pentheus for denying him, but the punishment is so terrible that awe and horror cannot be separated. The play does not let the audience rest in simple piety. The god is real. The god is powerful. The god must be honored. But divine victory leaves human devastation behind. Greek comedy treated gods differently, with irreverence, mockery, and play. Aristophanes could make divine and heroic subjects ridiculous. This does not mean the Athenians were modern secular skeptics. Laughter itself had festival space. The gods could be approached through solemn sacrifice and through comic exaggeration. A religion that includes Dionysus has room for masks. Art made the gods visible. Temples housed cult statues, not because Greeks thought the entire god was trapped inside the statue, but because the image gave presence a place. Marble, bronze, ivory, gold, wood, paint, and cloth made divine beauty tangible. A cult statue could be dressed, washed, adorned, carried in procession, hidden, or revealed. The material image mediated a power larger than material. Greek sculpture changed how the divine body could be imagined. Archaic figures stand frontal and stylized, with the famous archaic smile. Classical gods and goddesses become balanced, idealized, proportionate, calm, and alive with restrained energy. The human body becomes the language of divine presence. This has sometimes led people to say that the Greeks made gods in their own image. But the opposite is also true. They made the human body aspire toward divinity. The Parthenon sculptures show gods not as distant monsters, but as perfected presences seated with astonishing ease. Their bodies are ideal and relaxed, as if divinity means having nothing to prove. On the frieze, the civic procession of Athens approaches the divine. The city and gods belong to the same visual world, though not the same rank. Religion, art, politics, and civic pride become one continuous marble statement. Vase painting gives another kind of access. On cups, jars, and craters, gods appear in scenes of myth and daily use. A man drinking wine might see Dionysus inside the cup. A wedding vessel might show divine marriage. A funerary vase might show Hermes guiding the dead. Myth entered the hand. The gods were not only in sanctuaries. They were on objects people touched. The Romans later absorbed and transformed the Greek gods through their own religious language. Zeus became associated with Jupiter, Hera with Juno, Athena with Minerva, Aphrodite with Venus, Ares with Mars, Poseidon with Neptune, Hermes with Mercury. These were not always exact equivalents. Roman gods had their own histories and civic meanings. But Greek stories traveled through Roman names into European literature and art. Much of the modern world knows the Greek gods through Roman masks. After the rise of Christianity, the old gods lost their temples, but not their cultural power. Christian writers denounced them as demons, fictions, or immoral pagan errors. Temples were closed, repurposed, or destroyed. Sacrifice ceased. Oracles fell silent. Yet the myths remained in manuscripts, education, art, allegory, and memory. Medieval scholars preserved them cautiously. Renaissance artists revived them with passion. Modern psychology, literature, painting, opera, film, and popular culture continue to use them because the powers they represent have not disappeared. Zeus no longer receives bulls at Olympia, but the problem of power remains. Hera no longer presides over Greek marriage rites, but the dignity and pain of marriage remain. Athena's statue is gone, but the desire to join wisdom and strength remains. Apollo's oracle is silent, but people still seek signs and clarity. Artemis's wild places shrink, but the boundary between civilization and nature remains. Aphrodite still rules in every life touched by desire. Ares still appears wherever violence outruns reason. Hephaestus still stands behind every craftsperson whose hands make beauty. Hermes moves through every message and road. Dionysus still waits wherever control loosens. Demeter still returns with every harvest. Hestia still burns wherever a home gathers around warmth. This is why the gods endure. They are not believed in by most people in the old way, but they continue to name experiences that feel larger than ordinary speech. The Greeks gave the world not only a pantheon, but a vocabulary of forces. Their gods are stories about power entering life through weather, body, mind, city, family, sex, food, art, violence, and death. The Olympian gods also cannot be understood without the places that held them. Greek religion lived in place. A god was not only a name in a poem, but a presence attached to a spring, a cave, a hill, an altar, a tree, a shoreline, a city gate, a battlefield, or a temple. The same divine name could gather different memories in different landscapes. To say Athena in Athens was to speak of the Acropolis, the olive tree, the Panathenaic procession, the old wooden image of Athena Polias, the Parthenon, the workshops and ships and law courts of the city. To say Apollo at Delphi was to speak of a mountain sanctuary, a prophetic priestess, treasuries, pilgrims, and the terrible brightness of ambiguous truth. To say Artemis at Broron was to speak of girls, bears, transition, and the edge between childhood and marriage. This local quality made Greek religion both shared and intensely particular. A traveler could recognize Zeus in many places, but the rituals, stories, and expectations surrounding Zeus might change. A city might have an ancient cult whose origins no one fully understood. A goddess might be worshipped under an epithet older than the polished literary myths. A rural sanctuary might preserve rites that felt strange even to educated Greeks from major cities. The gods were pan-Hellenic, but they were also local neighbors. An epithet could turn a god like a gem in the light. Zeus was not only Zeus. He was Zeus Xenios, Zeus of strangers, Zeus Horkios, Zeus of oaths, Zeus Katibates, Zeus who descends in lightning, Zeus Mylikios, a gentler but also chthonic and mysterious Zeus associated with appeasement, Zeus Pelus, Zeus of the city. Athena could be Polias, Parthenos, Nike, Ergane, Promachos. Apollo could be Pythios, Delios, Smintheus, Paeon, Loxias. Artemis could be Agrodera, Orthia, Baronia, Tauropolos. These names were not decorative. They specified relationships. A worshipper did not approach an abstract department of divinity. A worshipper approached a god in a particular mode. This is why Greek religion was so rich in sacred geography. A sanctuary could arise because a god had appeared there, because a spring had healing power, because a hero was buried there, because an old tree was sacred, because an oracle spoke, because a myth had attached itself to the ground. The physical world was full of memory. A rock could matter because a god had sat there. A cave could matter because nymphs lived there. A road could matter because processions walked it. To move through Greece was to move through layers of sacred story. The mountains especially carried divine force. Olympus was the great imagined seat of the Olympians, but many other mountains were sacred. Parnassus belonged to Apollo and the Muses. Cytheron carried Dionysian stories and tragic memories. Helicon was associated with the Muses and poetic inspiration. Ida on Crete and Ida near Troy both had deep mythological associations. Mountains rise between earth and sky. They are visible from far away. They gather cloud, storm, spring water, and awe. It is not difficult to understand why gods live near peaks. Caves were different. They led inward. They belonged to nymphs, Pan, birth, hiddenness, and sometimes oracles. A cave can be shelter and threat at once. It is a mouth in the earth. In Greek imagination, the earth was not dead matter. it was layered with powers below. Springs, vapors, echoes, darkness, and sudden coolness could all feel divine. The Olympian gods may have lived above, but Greek religion never forgot the powers beneath. The distinction between Olympian and chthonic powers was important, though not absolute. Olympian rites often involved sacrifice upward, the burning of portions on raised altars, the sharing of meat, prayers lifted to the sky. Chthonic rites, addressed to powers below the earth, heroes, the dead, and underworld gods, could involve offerings poured or burned into pits, darker animals, night rituals, or a different atmosphere of appeasement. The Greek religious world had vertical depth. Some powers received smoke rising, others received blood sinking. Some were approached in daylight, others in a hush closer to the ground. Hecate belongs to this shadowed edge. She is not one of the familiar Olympians, yet she became deeply important as a goddess of crossroads, night, ghosts, magic, thresholds, and protection. In Hesiod, she is honored broadly by Zeus, but later she becomes more liminal and eerie. Her presence at doors and crossroads shows how Greek religion attended to places where categories changed. A doorway is not merely architecture. It is the point where inside becomes outside. A crossroads is not merely a route. It is the point where choice multiplies. Hecate stood where ordinary certainty thinned. Pan belongs to another kind of edge. Half-goat, wild, musical, sudden, connected to shepherds, mountains, sexuality, and panic. Pan was not polished Olympus. He was rustic divinity, the god of places where city habits loosened. The word panic itself preserves the terror of a sudden irrational fear attributed to him. A lonely traveler in the hills, hearing a noise at midday in the stillness, might feel Pan's presence. Greek religion understood not only the grandeur of temples, but the strangeness of being alone in wild country. The nymphs, too, filled the world. Naiads in springs and streams, dryads in trees, Oreads in mountains, Nereids in the sea. These were not major gods in the Olympian sense, but they made the natural world alive with personality. A spring was not just water. It could be a nymph's place. A grove was not just trees. It could belong to powers who should not be offended. This mattered in everyday life because people depended on water, woods, and pasture. Respecting a place meant respecting the powers thought to dwell within it. The Muses gave another form of divine presence. They were daughters of Zeus and Mnemosyne, memory, and they governed song, poetry, music, dance, history, and inspired speech. Ancient poets did not begin by declaring their own genius. They invoked the muse. Sing, goddess, of the anger of Achilles. Tell me, muse, of the man of many ways. Inspiration was not simply self-expression. It was a gift, a visitation, a breath from beyond the individual mind. To remember rightly required divine assistance because memory itself was sacred. This is important for the gods of Olympus because the myths reached us through poetry. Homer and Hesiod did not invent Greek religion, but they shaped how the Greek world and later worlds imagined the gods. The Iliad shows gods intervening in war, taking sides, deceiving one another, saving favorites, and reflecting the violence of heroic society. The Odyssey shows gods as patrons of return, vengeance, disguise, and endurance. Hesiod organizes divine genealogy and gives the succession myth its enduring shape. Poetry did not merely describe the gods. It helped give them lasting form. But poetry was never the only authority. A local priest might know a ritual not found in Homer. A village might preserve a myth unknown to Athens. A mystery cult might hold teachings not written publicly. A temple might contain an old wooden image more sacred to worshippers than any marble masterpiece. The literary gods and the cult gods overlapped, but did not always match. This is one of the reasons Greek religion feels alive rather than systematic. It was made by many voices over many centuries. The Bronze Age roots of some Greek gods add another layer. Linear B tablets from Mycenaean palaces, centuries before classical Greece, preserve names that look like Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, Dionysus, and others. This means that some divine names were very old, older than the alphabetic poems that later made them famous. But continuity was not sameness. A name can survive while its stories, rituals, and social meanings change. The Zeus of a Mycenaean tablet is not yet the Zeus of Aeschylus, though they are connected by deep cultural memory. The Greek Dark Age, the Archaic period, colonization, contact with the Near East, and the rise of city-states all shaped the gods. Aphrodite, for example, carries signs of Eastern Mediterranean influence, related in complex ways to goddesses such as Astarte and Ishtar. Greek religion was never sealed off from neighbors. The gods of Greece were Greek, but Greece itself was part of a wider Mediterranean world of exchange. Myths, images, cult practices, and divine attributes traveled, changed, and settled into new homes. Apollo may also show such complexity. He is deeply Greek, but his cult centers, titles, and associations point to a world of regional layers and possible non-Greek influences. Artemis, too, has forms in Asia Minor that differ from the huntress of familiar mythology. The Artemis of Ephesus, with her many-breasted or many-ornamented image, belongs to a different visual and cultic world from the virgin huntress of the forests. Same name, different sacred emphasis. Greek religion could absorb and identify without making everything identical. The gods were also connected to age and gender in ways that reveal Greek society. Artemis guarded girls before marriage and women in childbirth. Hera governed marriage and the dignity of the wife. Aphrodite governed desire and sexual attraction. Demeter and Persephone carried mother-daughter bonds, agriculture, and initiation. Athena, though female, was virgin and strongly associated with male civic domains such as war strategy and the city. Hestia was female and central, yet still. These goddesses do not form a simple picture of womanhood. They show a range of female divine powers through which Greek culture thought about the stages, dangers, and meanings of women's lives. For men, gods and heroes offered other patterns. Apollo represented youthful beauty, music, discipline, and prophecy. Hermes represented movement, cunning, and exchange. Ares represented violence. Hephaestus represented skilled labor. Zeus represented authority. Poseidon represented strength and danger. Dionysus offered a release from rigid self-command. Heracles offered endurance through suffering. Achilles offered glory and mortality. Odysseus offered clever survival. Greek masculinity, like Greek divinity, was not one thing. Children encountered the gods early. They heard stories. They attended festivals. They saw sacrifices. They watched processions. They learned which gods protected their city and household. Religion entered the senses before it became thought. The smell of burnt fat, the sound of hymns, the sight of garlands, the taste of festival meat, the brightness of statues, the fear of thunder, the hush around tombs. A child did not need a theological treatise to know that the gods mattered. The city performed that truth. The economic side of religion was also real. Sanctuaries owned land, received dedications, stored wealth, employed priests, hosted festivals, and attracted visitors. Treasuries at Pan-Hellenic sanctuaries displayed offerings from cities. A victory in war might be commemorated by a dedication. A wealthy person might give a statue. A cured patient might leave a votive relief showing the healed body part. Religion moved goods and labor. Temples were sacred, but they also sat inside economies. At sanctuaries of healing, votive objects make suffering visible. A stone ear might thank a god for restored hearing. A carved leg might mark a healed injury. An inscription might record a dream cure. These dedications are humble and moving because they preserve ordinary bodies. The gods of Olympus can seem grand, but Greek religion also cared about pain in a knee, fever in a child, danger in childbirth, blindness, infection, and fear. Divine power entered life through the body's needs. The body was central in sacrifice as well. Ancient religion did not hide the killing of animals from sacred life. It placed killing at the center and surrounded it with ritual. Modern readers may feel distance from this, but for Greeks, the sacrifice transformed death into relationship and community. The animal was adorned, led, sprinkled with water, and made to nod, at least symbolically, as if consenting. The knife was hidden in a basket. Women cried out at the moment of killing. Fire, blood, smoke, and meat linked gods and humans. The feast that followed was not an afterthought. It was part of the sacred exchange. Different gods could require different offerings. Olympian gods often received white animals. Underworld powers might receive black ones. Some offerings were bloodless. Cakes, fruits, grains, incense, libations. First fruits could be dedicated to Demeter or other powers. Small household offerings mattered alongside public sacrifices. Piety did not always require grandeur. It required fitting action. Greek temples themselves functioned differently from many modern places of worship. The main ritual usually happened outside at the altar, not inside the temple building. The temple housed the god's image and treasures. It was the god's house. Ordinary worshippers might not gather inside as a congregation in the modern sense. The sacred center was the altar under open sky, where smoke rose. This is why the architecture of Greek sanctuaries must be imagined with movement around them. Processions, altars, statues, crowds, animals, music, and offerings. The beauty of a temple was not merely aesthetic. It was honor. To build beautifully for a god was to show reverence, wealth, civic identity, and technical excellence. The proportional clarity of Greek architecture expressed a desire to make order visible. Columns, entablatures, pediments, sculpted myths, and painted details formed a sacred language. Ancient temples were not originally the plain white monuments modern ruins suggest. They were painted, adorned, bright, and alive with color. Color matters because modern imagination often bleaches antiquity. The gods in Greek art were not originally encountered in the museum's quiet whiteness. Statues could be painted, clothed, gilded, crowned, and given offerings. Temples could shine with color and metal. Sanctuaries were noisy, crowded, smoky, and full of animals, vendors, athletes, pilgrims, and officials. Ancient religion was not minimalist. It was sensory. Sound was equally important. Hymns praised gods by name and story. A paean to Apollo, a dithyramb for Dionysus, a wedding song invoking Hymen, a lament at a funeral, a chorus in tragedy. Music carried sacred force. Apollo's lyre and Dionysus's pipes represent different musical worlds, measured and ecstatic. The Greeks understood that sound changes the soul. Religious life used that power. Dance belonged to worship too. Processions moved bodies through sacred space. Choruses trained citizens in rhythm and coordination. Maidens danced for Artemis. Men danced in martial or festival contexts. Dionysian worship could involve ecstatic movement. A city that danced together enacted order, gender, age, and devotion. Movement was memory made visible. The Panathenaic procession in Athens is a perfect example. Citizens, medics, women, men, cavalry, elders, musicians, sacrificial animals, and woven cloth moved toward the Acropolis in honor of Athena. The new peplos, a robe woven for the goddess, expressed labor, devotion, and civic unity. To carry cloth to a goddess of weaving and city protection was to bind household work and state identity together. The procession made Athens visible to itself. Sparta's religion had a different character. The sanctuary of Artemis Orthia involved rites that could be harsh, including the famous whipping of boys in later accounts. Spartan festivals such as the Hyacinthia honored Apollo and the youth Hyacinthus, blending mourning and celebration. Spartan piety was not merely militaristic. It was deeply woven into the city's discipline, identity, and calendar. The idea that Sparta was only a military machine misses how sacred its social rhythms were. On Crete, myths of Zeus's birth gave the island special divine memory. In some traditions, the infant Zeus was hidden in a cave and protected from Cronus, while the Curetes clashed weapons to cover his cries. This image of the vulnerable future king hidden in Earth's darkness differs sharply from the later Thunderer. Even Zeus had once needed concealment. The king of gods had a childhood in danger. In Arcadia, wild and mountainous, Pan and rustic gods felt especially at home. In the islands, sea gods and local forms of major deities carried particular importance. On Delos, Apollo's birth made the island sacred. No births or deaths were allowed there in certain periods because the island was dedicated to divine purity. The sacred could reshape ordinary life, even the right to be born or die in a place. Delos became a major sanctuary and later a commercial center. This combination is not unusual. Sacred places attract people, people attract exchange. Pilgrims need food, lodging, offerings, souvenirs, and services. Merchants follow crowds. The boundary between sacred and economic space was porous. A sanctuary could be holy and busy. The gods also shaped Greek colonization. When Greek communities founded colonies around the Mediterranean and Black Sea, they carried gods, fire, and ritual patterns with them. A new city needed sacred legitimacy. Apollo's oracle at Delphi was often consulted about colonial foundations. A colony might preserve ties to the mother city through cult. Religion traveled with settlers, helping make unfamiliar lands socially and cosmically habitable. At the same time, colonies encountered local gods and peoples. Greek settlers identified foreign deities with Greek ones, a process later called interpretatio. A local mother goddess might be understood through Demeter or Artemis. A storm god might be linked with Zeus. This did not simply erase difference. It created layered religious worlds. In Sicily, southern Italy, Asia Minor, Egypt, and the Black Sea, Greek religion became part of multicultural landscapes. Contact with Egypt especially fascinated Greeks. Herodotus saw connections between Greek and Egyptian gods, sometimes imaginatively. Isis and Demeter, Osiris and Dionysus, Egyptian animal cults, sacred antiquity, and temple ritual all attracted Greek curiosity. Greek religion was confident but not closed. It compared, borrowed, argued, and reinterpreted. The gods of Olympus existed in a world where divine names could travel. Myth also served genealogy. Cities and families traced descent from gods and heroes to claim prestige. A royal house might descend from Heracles. A city might claim foundation by a hero favored by Apollo. These stories were not merely decorative. They established identity, rights, rivalries, and sacred obligations. To know one's ancestors was to know one's place in a divine human order. The heroes of the Trojan War became especially important to Greek identity. Achilles, Agamemnon, Menelaus, Odysseus, Ajax, Diomedes, Hector, Helen, and others belonged to a shared heroic past. The gods' involvement in the Trojan War made the conflict a mirror of divine politics. Hera and Athena favor Greeks. Aphrodite favors Paris and Troy. Apollo helps Trojans. Poseidon and Zeus balance, resist, or intervene. War becomes a stage on which divine rivalries and human glory meet. Yet the Iliad is not a simple celebration of war. It shows grief, rage, pity, brutality, and the cost of honor. The gods can appear almost careless in contrast to human suffering. They feast while mortals die. They argue over favorites. They rescue some and abandon others. This distance between immortal ease and mortal pain is one of the poem's deepest tensions. The gods make the human condition more tragic because they reveal what humans cannot have: deathless life. Mortality is the center of Greek myth. The gods are not better than humans in every moral way, but they do not die. Humans may be wiser, more courageous, more faithful, or more sympathetic in particular stories, but they remain mortal. Achilles is greater than many gods in emotional intensity, but he will die young. Odysseus can refuse immortality with Calypso because he wants home and Penelope, but that choice is meaningful precisely because it accepts mortality. Greek myth asks whether a finite life can be beautiful. Its answer is yes, but never without sorrow. The gods envy nothing about death, but they are fascinated by mortals. Why would immortals care about beings who vanish so quickly? Greek myth suggests several answers. Mortals honor gods through sacrifice. Mortals provide drama. Mortals are beautiful in their fragility. Mortals can produce glory, devotion, and excellence precisely because time is short. The gods watch humans the way those outside danger watch those inside it, with curiosity, affection, irritation, and sometimes cruelty. This helps explain divine favoritism. Athena loves Odysseus because his intelligence pleases her. Apollo favors certain young men, prophets, musicians, and cities. Aphrodite favors Paris and others. Hera protects marriage and certain communities. Gods are not neutral forces. They have preferences. To be favored by a god is dangerous as well as beneficial because divine attention can draw divine rivalry. A gift from one god can offend another. Greek myths often begin with such imbalance. A mortal receives beauty, skill, prophecy, strength, or divine love, and the gift becomes a problem. Cassandra receives prophecy from Apollo, but is cursed not to be believed. Tithonus receives immortality, but not eternal youth. Midas receives the golden touch and nearly starves. Phaeton tries to drive the chariot of the sun and falls. Greek stories distrust gifts that exceed human measure. The gods also punish neglect. Niobe boasts that she has more children than Leto, mother of Apollo and Artemis. Leto's children kill Niobe's. The daughters of Minyas refuse Dionysus and suffer. Hippolytus honors Artemis but rejects Aphrodite, and Aphrodite destroys him. This last story is especially revealing. Hippolytus is not impious toward all gods. He is excessively devoted to one and contemptuous of another. Greek religion values balance. To honor only purity and despise desire is dangerous because desire is divine too. A complete life must acknowledge powers one does not personally like. The judgment of Hippolytus shows how different Greek religion is from moral simplification. Aphrodite's revenge seems cruel, but the myth's logic is theological. No major divine power may be denied. Artemis can love Hippolytus, but she cannot fully save him from Aphrodite's domain. The gods have spheres, and humans live at their intersections. To pretend one sphere can abolish another is folly. Another example is Agamemnon and Artemis. Before sailing to Troy, the Greek fleet is trapped at Aulis. Artemis demands the sacrifice of Agamemnon's daughter Iphigenia in many versions. The reasons vary: an offense against the goddess, a boast, a sacred deer, or simply divine demand. The story is horrifying because public war requires private blood. The father kills or nearly kills the daughter so armies can move. The gods expose the cost hidden beneath heroic campaigns. Euripides explores this cost with painful clarity. Iphigenia can become willing in some versions, turning herself into a patriotic sacrifice, but the emotional violence remains. Artemis may save her in some traditions, substituting a deer and carrying her away. Myth varies because cultures return to unbearable stories and try different ways of living with them. The gods do not remove the wound. They make it visible. The Greek gods were not ethical teachers in a simple sense, but they created ethical problems. What does one owe a god? What does one owe a parent, a child, a city, a guest, a stranger, the dead, the law? What happens when obligations conflict? Greek myth is full of such collisions because life is full of them. The gods do not always solve the conflict. Sometimes they intensify it. The story of Antigone belongs here. Though it is a tragedy about human law and divine law rather than an Olympian adventure, the gods are present in the burial obligation. Creon forbids the burial of Polynices. Antigone insists that unwritten divine laws require burial. The conflict destroys the house. The gods do not appear on stage to explain themselves, but sacred obligation drives the action. In Greek religion, the gods could be most powerful when unseen. Unseen power also governed fate. The Moirai, the fates, spin, measure, and cut the thread of life. Their relationship with Zeus is complex. In some passages, Zeus seems to weigh or know fate. In others, he cannot simply overturn it without disrupting order. Fate is not always a personified bureaucracy. It is the shape of necessity. Even gods operate within patterns. This gave Greek thought a tragic seriousness. Divine power is great, but not arbitrary without limit. There are boundaries even above Olympus. Ananke, necessity, is another such power. So is nemesis, the force that responds to excess. So are the Erinyes, the Furies, who avenge blood guilt, especially within families. These powers are older feeling, darker, less personable than the shining Olympians. They remind us that Olympus is not the whole divine world. Beneath the feast of gods lies a moral and cosmic pressure that cannot be laughed away. The Erinyes are especially important. When blood is shed within a family, they pursue. They are not gentle justice. They are ancient vengeance. In the Orestia, Orestes kills his mother Clytemnestra because she killed his father Agamemnon. Apollo supports him, but the Erinyes pursue because matricide cannot be erased by Apollo's command. Athena finally establishes a court in Athens to judge the case. The myth dramatizes a movement from endless revenge towards civic law, but it does not destroy the old powers. They must be honored in a new form. Justice requires integration, not denial. This pattern appears again and again in Greek religion. Dangerous powers must be acknowledged, given a place, ritually contained, and honored. Dionysus must have festivals. The dead must have offerings. The Furies must be appeased. Artemis must receive rites at transitions. Aphrodite must not be despised. The sea must be sacrificed to. The world is manageable only when its forces are recognized. Modern people sometimes want religion to be about belief alone, but Greek religion was often about correct relationship. A person did not need to love Poseidon to sacrifice before sailing. A city did not need to morally approve of Ares to acknowledge war's power. Ritual allowed humans to approach forces they could not control. It was a technology of humility. There is another quiet dimension, gratitude. Not every offering was fear. A safe birth, a victory, a healing, a return from sea, a good harvest, a successful journey, a marriage, a vow fulfilled. These called for thanks. Votive offerings preserve gratitude in stone, bronze, clay, and inscription. A person healed by Asclepius might leave a record. A soldier saved in battle might dedicate armor. A city victorious in war might dedicate spoils. Gratitude made memory material. The gods also lived in stories of hospitality. Zeus Xenios protected the guest-host relationship. In a world without hotels, passports, and modern law, Hospitality was sacred social infrastructure. A stranger could be dangerous, but also could be under Zeus's protection. Hosts offered food, shelter, and gifts. Guests owed respect and memory. Violating hospitality could bring divine anger. The Trojan War itself begins in part from Paris violating the hospitality of Menelaus by taking Helen. Myth turns a social breach into world-shaking catastrophe. Suppliants, too, had sacred status. A person in desperate need could grasp an altar, a statue, or the knees of a powerful person and appeal for protection. Zeus Hikisios guarded suppliants. To harm a suppliant was not merely cruelty, it was impiety. Greek tragedy often turns on the tension between political danger and sacred obligation toward those who beg for shelter. Religion gave the vulnerable a language of appeal, though not always safety. Oaths were equally sacred. Zeus Horkios punished false swearing. Treaties, court testimony, marriages, alliances, and promises depended on the belief that gods witnessed speech. A society without modern enforcement needed sacred force behind words. To swear falsely was to invite divine consequence. Speech mattered because gods heard. This gives Greek religion a deep connection with language. Names, hymns, prayers, curses, prophecies, vows, and oaths all carried power. A curse could call upon underworld forces. A hymn could praise and attract favor. A prophecy could shape decisions for generations. A god's epithet could direct the prayer to the correct aspect of the deity. Language was not merely descriptive. It acted. Curses and binding spells reveal another side of religious practice. Lead tablets inscribed with curses have been found in many places. People asked underworld powers to bind rivals in lawsuits, love, business, sport, or personal conflict. This was not the noble public face of religion, but it was part of the ancient world. Ordinary people sought supernatural advantage in ordinary struggles. The gods and spirits were drawn into competition, jealousy, desire, and resentment. Magic and religion were not always sharply separated. Elite writers might condemn certain practices as impious or foreign, but real life was messy. Amulets, spells, cursed tablets, healing rites, purification rituals, and official sacrifices all existed along a continuum of attempts to influence unseen powers. Greek religion had public temples and private anxieties. Both mattered. Dreams offered another path to the divine. At healing sanctuaries, incubation involved sleeping in a sacred place and awaiting a dream from the god. Dreams could diagnose, prescribe, heal, or command. In literature, gods send dreams that mislead or guide. Sleep was not simply rest. It was a vulnerable state in which messages could cross from divine to human. A person waking from a dream might need interpretation, just as an oracle needed interpretation. The Greek gods also lived in the body through beauty and shame. Greek culture often linked physical beauty with divine favor, but beauty could attract danger. Helen's beauty brings war. Ganymede's beauty brings him to Olympus as cupbearer of Zeus. Narcissus' beauty destroys him. Adonis, beloved by Aphrodite, dies young. Beauty is never neutral in Greek myth. It is a force that draws eyes, desire, envy, and fate. Youth has the same danger. Many beloved figures of gods die young. Hyacinthus, loved by Apollo. Adonis, loved by Aphrodite. Ganymede, taken by Zeus. These myths preserve the pain of beauty that cannot last. The gods are immortal, but they are drawn to mortal youth precisely because it is fragile. A flower becomes a memorial. A festival preserves grief. The death of the beautiful becomes part of the divine calendar. Hyacinthus is especially poignant. In myth, he dies accidentally, struck by a discus, and Apollo's grief transforms him into a flower. At Sparta, the Hyacinthia combined mourning and celebration. This mixture is very Greek. grief and festival are not opposites. A community can mourn and feast in structured sequence because life itself moves between loss and renewal. The gods' relationships with mortals often produce heroes, but also suffering. Divine love is not safe. Semele asks to see Zeus as he truly is and is consumed by divine radiance. Leda, Europa, Danae, Alcmene, Io, each story reflects divine desire entering mortal life with overwhelming consequences. Some stories are beautiful, many are disturbing. A mature understanding of Greek myth cannot pretend all divine love is romance. Often it is power crossing into vulnerability. This creates a problem later cultures struggled with. How can gods be worthy of worship if their myths show deception, coercion, rage, and injustice? Ancient Greeks themselves did not all answer the same way. Some accepted the myths as inherited sacred story. Some allegorized them. Some criticized them. Some separated poetic myth from philosophical truth. Some simply performed the rituals without needing every story to be morally comfortable. The discomfort is not modern invention. It is part of the tradition. Allegorical interpretation became one way to preserve myth under criticism. A god could represent a natural force, a moral principle, a cosmic element, or a psychological reality. Zeus might be ether or mind, Hera air, Poseidon water, Demeter earth's fertility, Aphrodite desire, Ares conflict. Such interpretations allowed educated readers to find depth beneath scandalous stories. But allegory never fully replaced narrative. The gods remained themselves, unruly and memorable. Philosophers were not the only ones to reshape the gods. Poets did so constantly. Aeschylus makes Zeus more morally serious than Homer often does. Sophocles emphasizes divine law and human blindness. Euripides exposes the horror in inherited myths. Pindar, the lyric poet, often refuses to repeat stories that make gods seem shameful, reshaping myth toward reverence. Each poet inherits gods and then chooses how to speak of them. Greek religion lived through this continual re-speech. The rise of mystery cults and personal religious movements also changed the landscape. The Eleusinian mysteries promised hope. Orphic traditions offered myths of the soul, purity, divine origin, and afterlife judgment. Dionysian and Orphic materials could suggest that humans contain a divine element trapped in mortal life. Gold tablets buried with the dead in some regions give instructions for the soul's journey in the underworld, telling it what to say and where to go. This is a very different religious mood from Homeric shadow life. These traditions show that Greek religion was not only civic sacrifice and cheerful festivals. It included longing for salvation, purification, and a better fate after death. Some Greeks wanted more than honor in life and proper burial. They wanted the soul to be transformed, released, remembered by divine powers, or guided toward a blessed path. The Olympian gods existed alongside these deeper currents of hope. Dionysus and Orpheus both mattered in this area. Orpheus, the singer who could charm animals, trees, stones, and underworld powers, became associated with sacred poetry and teachings about purification. Dionysus, torn apart in some Orphic myths and reborn, offered a divine pattern of death and renewal. These traditions are difficult to reconstruct, but they reveal a religious imagination probing the meaning of the soul. Greek religion also changed under the pressure of empire. After Alexander the Great, Greek culture spread across Egypt, Syria, Mesopotamia, Iran, and Central Asia. The Hellenistic world created new divine mixtures. Greek gods were identified with Egyptian gods, Near Eastern gods, and local powers. Zeus, Ammon, Serapis, Isis in Greek forms, syncretic cults, ruler worship, and cosmopolitan religious exchange all grew in this environment. Olympus traveled, but it changed as it traveled. Alexander himself visited the oracle of Zeus Ammon at Siwa in Egypt, and his relationship to divinity became politically charged. After his death, Hellenistic kings used divine imagery to legitimize rule. Ruler cults developed, especially in the Greek East. This did not mean people simply believed kings were gods in the same way as Zeus. It meant political power entered religious form. The old boundary between human and divine could be stretched for empire. The Romans inherited a Hellenized divine world and further transformed it. Greek myths became part of Roman education. Roman poets such as Ovid retold them with elegance, irony, and psychological brilliance. Ovid's Metamorphoses became one of the great channels through which Greek myth entered later Europe. Many stories modern people think of as Greek are known through Roman literary versions. The gods survived by changing language. Christianity eventually challenged the old gods at the level of truth, morality, and worship. Christian apologists mocked the immoral myths and rejected sacrifice to pagan deities. Emperors after Constantine increasingly favored Christianity, and in later centuries public pagan sacrifice was suppressed. Temples lost funding, were converted, abandoned, or destroyed. The old rituals that had maintained divine-human relationships ceased across much of the Mediterranean. But cultural death is not the same as disappearance. The gods became literature, allegory, astrology, art, and memory. A medieval scholar might read them as poetic falsehoods containing moral lessons. A Renaissance painter might paint Venus with Christian patrons. A modern psychologist might speak of archetypes. A novelist might use Dionysus to explore madness, Athena to explore strategy, Hermes to explore language. The gods lost altars but kept symbolic force. This long afterlife matters because it shows the power of Greek divine imagination. Most ancient religions are not globally familiar in the same way. The Olympians survived partly because Greek literature survived, Roman culture transmitted them, Renaissance humanism revived them, and modern education repeated them. But survival also depends on usefulness. These gods continue to give names to experiences people recognize. They also continue to trouble. Modern readers may enjoy the stories but recoil from divine violence, sexual coercion, revenge, and hierarchy. That discomfort is appropriate. The Greek gods are not safe. They do not exist to confirm modern ethics. They come from a world with different assumptions about power, gender, fate, and honor. To approach them honestly is to allow both fascination and criticism. The danger is to flatten them in either direction. If they are treated only as charming stories, their religious seriousness vanishes. If they are treated only as morally offensive relics, their imaginative depth vanishes. If they are treated as simple symbols, their unpredictability vanishes. If they are treated as literal moral authorities, their contradictions become unbearable. They become clearest when seen as ancient powers of thought, worship, story, and social life, formed by people trying to live under a world they could not control. That world was physical. Thunder was not metaphor when lightning struck. The sea was not symbol when a ship broke apart. Childbirth was not poetic when a woman died. Plague was not literary when bodies filled a city. Desire was not abstract when families and kingdoms were undone. Harvest was not philosophy when granaries emptied. The gods were born from real vulnerabilities. They were also born from wonder. The Greeks saw beauty in bodies, horses, olive trees, marble, music, proportion, speech, and sunlight. They saw intelligence in craft and politics. They saw glory in athletic excellence and tragic poetry. They saw holiness in springs, flames, mountains, and graves. The gods gave wonder shape. They made the world addressable. Addressing the world was the beginning of religion. To say, "O Zeus," before an oath, "O Apollo," before a question, "O Demeter," before the seed, "O Artemis," before childbirth, O Hermes before the road, O Poseidon before sailing, was to stand inside a relationship. Human beings were small, but not silent. They could speak. They could offer. They could remember. They could ask. Sometimes the gods answered. Sometimes they did not. Greek religion never fully solved the pain of unanswered prayer. No religion does. But it gave forms for asking and for enduring. It gave festivals where grief could become song, sacrifice where fear could become order, temples where beauty could become gratitude, myths where suffering could become meaning. The gods of Olympus also helped Greeks think about excellence. Arete, excellence or virtue in a broad sense, was not merely moral goodness. It was the full realization of a being's power, the excellence of a warrior, a horse, a speaker, a craftsperson, a ruler, a singer. The gods each embodied a kind of extreme excellence. Athena is excellence of mind and craft, Apollo of music and clarity, Aphrodite of beauty and desire, Ares of destructive battle force, Hermes of movement and cunning, Hephaestus of making, Demeter of fertility, Dionysus of ecstatic release. To honor a god was to acknowledge the excellence and danger of a domain. Mortals could share in such excellence, but never possess it completely. A skilled weaver touches Athena's sphere. A musician touches Apollo's. A lover is seized by Aphrodite. A soldier feels Ares. A drunk dancer enters Dionysus. A sailor fears Poseidon. A farmer depends on Demeter. A traveler hopes for Hermes. Human life is a continual crossing into divine territories. This makes Greek religion psychologically rich. It externalizes human experiences without reducing them to psychology. Desire feels like Aphrodite because desire really does arrive as if from outside the self. Rage feels like Ares because rage can possess the body. Inspiration feels like the muse because the poem seems given. Panic feels like Pan because fear can arise from nowhere. Grief feels like Demeter because the whole world can become barren when a beloved is gone. These are not merely metaphors. They are ancient ways of respecting the force of experience. The gods were therefore close to what later people might call archetypal, but they were more than mental patterns. They had temples, rituals, histories, priests, offerings, images, and civic rights. The psychological and the religious were not separate boxes. The same Aphrodite could be a goddess worshipped in a sanctuary, a mythic figure in poetry, a force in a lover's body, and an explanation for a war. Greek culture allowed all these layers to coexist. That layered coexistence is one reason the gods have remained alive in memory for so long. They can be seen through myth, ritual, art, politics, gender, psychology, landscape, philosophy, and daily life. Each path reveals another face. Zeus is a sky god, a king, a father, a threat, a protector of guests, an oath witness, a mythic lover, and a philosophical problem. Athena is a city goddess, a virgin warrior, a patron of weaving, a counselor of heroes, a statue, a temple, and an ideal of intelligence. Dionysus is wine, madness, theater, foreignness, liberation, and terror. No single image contains them. Even the contradictions are productive. Apollo is healing and plague. Artemis protects childbirth and brings sudden death. Aphrodite gives union and destruction. Hermes protects travelers and thieves. Zeus upholds justice and violates boundaries. Athena is female but rejects ordinary female roles. Dionysus dissolves the city so the city can survive. Greek gods do not behave like clean categories. They behave like life. The Greeks also understood that stories about gods could be dangerous. Plato worried about what young people would learn from tales of divine deception, lust, and violence. If gods behave badly, why should humans behave well? This question is serious. Myth educates emotion. A society must decide which divine examples children will absorb and what kind of souls those examples will form. Greek culture never reached one final answer. It argued. Education in ancient Greece often began with poetry. Boys, especially from citizen families with resources, learned Homer. They memorized heroic speech, divine action, moral examples, and dangerous examples. The gods entered ethics through literature even when the stories were morally complex. A young person learning Homer learned not only language but the structure of glory, shame, prayer, anger, supplication, and fate. Supplication is one of the most beautiful gestures in Homer. Priam, king of Troy, comes to Achilles to beg for the body of Hector. He kisses the hands that killed his son. The gods help make this meeting possible, but the emotional power is human. Achilles sees in Priam his own father. For a moment, rage gives way to shared mortality. The gods may be immortal, but humans teach one another pity. This may be one of the quiet secrets of Greek myth. The gods are powerful, but mortals often carry the deepest moral weight. Hector returning to battle after speaking with Andromache, Priam begging Achilles, Antigone burying her brother, Odysseus refusing immortality for home, Penelope waiting, Orestes haunted by guilt, Iphigenia facing sacrifice, Demeter grieving her child through the earth. These figures make divine stories human. The gods frame the condition, mortals feel it. The gods of Olympus, then, are not only about gods. They are about what it means to be human under divine pressure. A myth begins with Zeus or Athena or Apollo, but it ends in a human choice. Should one obey? Should one resist? Should one leave home? Should one return? Should one fight? Should one forgive? Should one bury the dead? Should one honor desire or fear it? Should one trust prophecy? Should one accept limits? This is why a story about the gods can become a story about civilization. Ancient Greece produced democracy, tragedy, philosophy, history, sculpture, and political experimentation, but these achievements did not stand outside religion. The theater was Dionysian. The Acropolis was sacred. The Olympic Games honored Zeus. The word history itself grew in a world where Herodotus still reported oracles and divine signs. Philosophy argued with myth, but was shaped by its questions. Greek rationality did not simply replace religion. It grew beside it, against it, and through it. The relationship between mythos and logos is often oversimplified. Mythos did not mean nonsense, and logos did not simply mean science. Myth carried story, memory, and sacred pattern. Logos carried account, reason, argument, order. Greek culture became powerful partly because it allowed these modes to contend. A myth could be questioned by reason. Reason could inherit myth's questions. The gods could be criticized and still worshipped. This tension gave Greek thought its electricity. One could stand at Delphi and ask Apollo for guidance, then later argue philosophically about the nature of truth. One could attend a tragedy about divine cruelty, then sacrifice at a festival. One could laugh at gods in comedy and honor them in ritual. This range may seem contradictory, but human beings are contradictory. Greek religion made room for solemnity, doubt, fear, beauty, mockery, and longing. The gods also shaped time. Myths placed the present after a heroic age when gods and mortals mingled more openly. The current age felt diminished, farther from divine immediacy. Heroes had lived then. Monsters had been slain then. Gods had walked more visibly then. This sense of living after greatness gave Greek culture a powerful relationship to the past. The past was not dead. It was higher, more dangerous, and more intimate with divinity. Yet the gods remained present. The age of heroes was over, but sacrifice still worked, oracles still spoke, festivals still came, and sacred places still held power. The divine had withdrawn somewhat, but not vanished. Human beings lived in the afterglow of myth. maintaining contact through ritual. The calendar of festivals made this contact recurring. The same procession every year, the same song, the same sacrifice, the same myth enacted again. Repetition made time sacred. A festival does not merely remember an event. It brings the community back into relation with it. When Athenians honored Athena, they did not only think about their patron goddess. They renewed the bond between goddess and city. Ritual repetition also gave stability in a world of change. Children grew, elders died, wars came, harvests failed, governments shifted, but the festival returned. The gods gave rhythm. Even fear became structured. If one knows when to purify, when to sacrifice, when to mourn, when to feast, life becomes more inhabitable. The gods were not equally important to everyone at every moment. Religion was situational. A sailor might be especially devoted to Poseidon, Aphrodite Eupoia of safe sailing, or the Dioscuri, protectors of sailors. A farmer might honor Demeter, Zeus of rain, local nymphs, and heroes of the land. A craftsperson might look to Athena and Hephaestus. A young woman before marriage might serve Artemis. A soldier might invoke Athena, Ares, Zeus, or a local hero. Piety followed need. This does not mean worship was purely transactional, though it often had reciprocal elements. Long association could create affection. Cities loved their patron deities. Families kept inherited rights. Priests and priestesses served for years. Worshippers returned to sanctuaries where they had received help. A god could be feared and beloved. The Greek word charis, grace or favor or reciprocal delight, is important here. Humans gave pleasing offerings. Gods gave favor. The relationship could have warmth. The gods also had festivals of joy. Dionysian revelry, Aphrodite's celebrations, harvest rites, athletic victories, processions with music and garlands. Religion was not only anxiety. It included color, food, laughter, dancing, competition, and beauty. To honor a god could be a pleasure. The divine was dangerous, but also generous. Wine shows this balance. In the symposium, elite men drank mixed wine, conversed, sang, played games, flirted, argued, and performed cultural identity. Wine was always mixed with water. Drinking unmixed wine was associated with barbarism or madness. Dionysus gives wine, but culture must mix it. This is a perfect Greek idea. The god's power must be honored and moderated. Too little Dionysus, and life is rigid. Too much, and order dissolves. The symposium also reveals exclusion. Greek religious and social life often depended on hierarchies: citizen and non-citizen, male and female, free and enslaved, Greek and foreign. The gods belonged to all in some ways, but access to certain rituals, spaces, and honors could be restricted. Enslaved people participated in household religion and festivals, but not as equals. Women had sacred roles, yet political exclusion remained. Greek religion both reflected and challenged social structure. It did not abolish it. Foreigners could worship Greek gods, and Greeks could honor foreign gods, especially in cosmopolitan places. But Greek identity often defined itself against barbarians, even while borrowing from them. Dionysus could be imagined as arriving from the east. Artemis of Ephesus drew non-Greek traditions into Greek naming. Aphrodite carried Eastern echoes. The boundary between Greek and foreign was culturally powerful but historically porous. The gods themselves crossed that boundary through identification. In Egypt, Greeks saw Zeus and Ammon, Hermes and Thoth, Aphrodite and Hathor or Isis in certain contexts, though such identifications were never exact. This habit of translating gods shows a basic assumption. Different peoples might be approaching related divine powers under different names. It was a flexible and politically useful way to understand religious difference. Still, some religious acts shocked Greeks. Human sacrifice was usually imagined as horrifying and exceptional, though myths contain it. Barbarian rituals could be described with disgust. Greek authors often used religion to define civilization and its opposite. But Greek myths themselves contain enough violence to complicate any easy moral superiority. The line between civilized and savage runs through Greek stories, not merely between Greeks and others. The gods of Olympus were linked to beauty, but they were never merely beautiful. Their beauty could blind. The full sight of a god could destroy a mortal. Semele's death after seeing Zeus in divine splendor teaches that mortal bodies cannot bear unmediated divinity. The gods usually appear disguised, softened, or symbolically represented because direct contact is too much. Religion mediates what raw divinity would burn. This helps explain temples, statues, rituals, and myths. They make contact possible without annihilation. A statue is not the total god. A myth is not the total god. A sacrifice is not control over the god. Each is a form, a vessel, a safe enough approach. Human beings need forms because the powers they address are too large. Greek philosophy's move toward abstraction can be understood partly as another form. Instead of Zeus with thunderbolts, the philosopher imagines divine mind, order, cause, or the good. This removes scandalous stories, but also removes much of the intimacy. The god of philosophy may be purer, but harder to pray to. The god of myth may be morally troubling, but emotionally near. Greek culture kept both because humans need both clarity and story. The old gods also allowed grief to be narrated. Demeter and Persephone gave cosmic shape to mother loss and seasonal return. Aphrodite and Adonis gave beauty a mourning festival. Apollo and Hyacinthus gave youth's death a flower. Dionysus gave dismemberment and rebirth ritual form. Orpheus and Eurydice gave the impossibility of recovering the dead a song. Grief becomes bearable when placed in a pattern, even if the pattern does not remove pain. This is one reason myths endure after belief changes. They give shape to experiences that theology alone may not settle. A person need not worship Demeter to understand a world barren under grief. A person need not believe in Dionysus to know the danger and necessity of release. A person need not pray to Hermes to feel that journeys require luck. The old gods continue because they make inner and outer worlds reflect each other. The Greeks were not naive about the difference between story and fact. They argued about mythic chronology, rejected some tales, rationalized others, and located heroic tombs with political motives. Herodotus reports traditions and doubts them. Thucydides strips away much divine explanation in his history of the Peloponnesian War, though he still lives in a religious world. Pausanias, writing under Rome, travels through Greece recording sanctuaries, myths, statues, and local traditions with a collector's reverence. Ancient people could be both believing and critical. Pausanias is especially valuable because he shows Greece as a sacred landscape in memory. By his time, many classical glories were already old. He walks among temples, images, local stories, graves, and offerings, noting variations and marvels. His work preserves the feeling that every place has a story, and every story has a place. Without such witnesses, much local religion would vanish from sight. The material remains of Greek religion are therefore essential. Texts give myths and reflections. Archaeology gives altars, bones, votives, temple foundations, inscriptions, figurines, cursed tablets, dedications, and sacred roads. Animal bones show sacrifice as practice, not only poem. Inscriptions preserve ordinary names. A small clay figurine may tell us more about popular devotion than a grand literary speech. The gods belong to all levels of society, and evidence must be gathered from all levels. Inscriptions can be wonderfully direct. A person dedicates something to a god because of a vow. A city records sacred regulations: who may enter, what must be offered, what is forbidden, how purity is maintained. Such texts remind us that religion required administration. Sacred law governed space and behavior. The divine world had practical rules. Some rules concerned purity before entering sanctuaries: washing, abstaining from sex or certain foods, avoiding contact with death, wearing proper clothing, or bringing acceptable offerings. These requirements varied by place and deity. Purity was not about moral perfection in a broad sense. It was about fitness for contact. One could not approach every power in every condition. The god's presence in law extended to punishment. Impiety, or asabiya, could be a serious charge. Socrates was famously tried and executed partly on accusations of not recognizing the gods of the city and introducing new divine things, along with corrupting the youth. The trial was political, philosophical, and religious at once. It shows that questioning divine matters was not always safe when the city felt threatened. Religion was woven into civic identity, and to disturb it could seem to disturb the city itself. Socrates' own religious life is complex. He speaks of a daimonion, a divine sign that restrains him. He questions poets, politicians, and craftsmen, seeking wisdom. He criticizes shallow claims to knowledge. Yet he is not simply an atheist in the modern sense. He accepts a divine mission, argues about piety, and dies after instructing that a cock be offered to Asclepius. His life shows the transition from traditional piety to philosophical religiosity, but not a clean break. Plato's dialogues continue that transition. In the Euthyphro, Socrates asks whether something is pious because the gods love it, or whether the gods love it because it is pious. This question quietly destabilizes mythic religion. If the gods disagree, what is piety? If piety depends on a standard beyond divine preference, then goodness is not merely what gods happen to want. Such questions helped move Greek thought toward ethics and theology beyond story. Yet even Plato uses myth. The myth of air, the chariot of the soul, Atlantis, cosmic judgment. Philosophical argument turns to myth when reason reaches regions needing image. Plato criticizes poets and then makes new myths. This is not hypocrisy. It shows that the human mind needs symbolic form even when seeking truth beyond traditional gods. Aristotle's unmoved mover is almost impossible to imagine worshipping with garlands, but it expresses another Greek impulse: the desire to understand order without divine quarrel. For Aristotle, the highest divine reality is pure actuality, thought thinking itself. This God does not rage, seduce, or punish. It moves the cosmos as an object of desire. The distance from Zeus is immense, yet the question remains Greek. What is the highest order behind change? The Stoics later identified divine reason with the rational order of the cosmos. They could interpret traditional gods allegorically as aspects of nature and reason. The Epicureans believed gods existed but were blessed and remote, not concerned with human affairs. Both schools changed the emotional relationship to Olympus. Fear of gods could be replaced by philosophical understanding. But popular worship continued. The same marketplace could contain sacrifice and skepticism. This coexistence should make us cautious about speaking of what the Greeks believed, as if all Greeks believed one thing. A farmer, a tragedian, a priestess, a philosopher, a soldier, a child, a foreign resident, a slave, an aristocratic woman, a Delphic consultant, and an initiate at Eleusis might all relate to the gods differently. Greek religion was shared enough to be recognizable and varied enough to be alive. Even time period matters. The gods of Homeric epic, archaic cult, classical Athens, Hellenistic Alexandria, Roman Greece, and late antique philosophical paganism are connected but not identical. Over 1,000 years, gods change. Their images change, their stories change, their worshippers' concerns change. What remains is a family of names and powers flexible enough to survive transformation. The gods of Olympus also shaped how Greeks saw non-human nature. Rivers could be gods. The wind could be divine. Boreas, the north wind, had force and myth. Helios saw all from the sky. Selene moved with the moon. Eos opened dawn. Gaia was earth herself. Oceanus encircled the world. Nereids and sea gods moved beneath waves. The natural world was person-filled. This did not prevent practical observation. Sailors still learned winds and stars. It meant that practical knowledge existed alongside reverence. The boundary between myth and observation was not as rigid as later categories suggest. Farmers watched seasons and sacrificed to Demeter. Sailors learned weather and prayed to Poseidon. Healers used practical treatments and invoked Asclepius. A person could know how things often work and still honor the powers behind them. Religion and experience interacted. Medicine is a good example. Hippocratic doctors sought natural explanations for disease, rejecting the idea that epilepsy was more divine than other illnesses. Yet healing sanctuaries continued to flourish. Rational medicine and sacred healing were not always enemies. A sick person might try both. Desperation is practical. If a god might help, one went to the god. Asclepius sanctuaries were places where bodies, dreams, and hope met. Patients slept in sacred spaces, received dreams, followed instructions, and left dedications. Some cures may have been psychosomatic, some natural recoveries, some exaggerated, some misunderstood, some perhaps aided by practical treatments available at the sanctuary. What matters historically is the human act of seeking healing where medicine and divinity touched. The gods also entered birth. Childbirth was one of the most dangerous moments in ancient life. Women invoked Artemis, Aletheia, Hera, and local powers. The transition from pregnancy to birth was perilous for mother and child. Ritual did not eliminate danger, but it placed danger within a relationship. A goddess of childbirth mattered because human skill alone could not guarantee survival. Marriage, too, required divine presence. The wedding moved a woman from one household to another, altered family alliances, created legitimate children, and exposed the bride to new duties and risks. Hera, Aphrodite, Artemis, Hymen, Zeus, and household gods could all be involved. The wedding was personal, social, economic, and sacred. In myth, disastrous marriages and violated marriages show how fragile this institution could be. The household itself had many sacred points: hearth, doorway, storeroom, courtyard, ancestral tombs. Zeus Theseus could protect household property, Zeus Herkios the courtyard, Apollo Aegeus the street or entrance, Hecate at the doorway, Hermes at boundaries. Religion did not only happen at state festivals. It happened where people cooked, stored grain, entered, left, slept, and mourned. This domestic sacredness complicates the grandeur of Olympus. Zeus may rule the sky, but he also guards the courtyard. Hermes may move between worlds, but he also stands by the road outside a house. Hestia may receive the first and last offering at meals. The highest gods entered the smallest routines. This is how religion becomes durable. It lives in repeated gestures. The Greeks also understood divine anger through signs. A failed sacrifice, a strange birth, an eclipse, a plague, a defeat, a crop failure, a dream, a bird omen, a thunderclap. Any could prompt interpretation. Seers, priests, oracles, and diviners helped read the world. Modern people may see superstition. Ancient people saw a cosmos that communicated. The difficulty lay not in whether signs existed, but in reading them correctly. Seers accompanied armies. Before battle, sacrifices were examined. If omens were unfavorable, commanders might delay. This could be frustrating, but it shows that war was not merely strategic. One fought under divine conditions. Even the boldest general needed signs. To ignore them risked disaster not only militarily, but religiously. The story of Nicias during the Sicilian expedition, delaying withdrawal after a lunar eclipse because of religious interpretation, shows how sacred signs could affect political and military decisions with catastrophic consequences. Thucydides tells the episode with restrained severity. A sign in the sky becomes part of human failure. Religion is not separate from history, it moves inside decisions. At sea, divine signs mattered intensely. Storms, winds, birds, and dreams could all be read. Sailors made vows in danger and dedications after survival. Poseidon, the Dioscuri, Aphrodite Euploia, Isis in later periods, and many local sea powers received prayers. A ship is always a fragile community under forces larger than itself. Religion gave sailors speech in the face of water. The gods' relation to justice remained one of the most difficult issues. Zeus could be called just, yet myths show injustice. The world punishes the innocent and rewards the cruel often enough that no simple theology could satisfy. Greek literature does not hide this. Theognis, Solon, Aeschylus, Sophocles, Euripides, Herodotus, and Plato all wrestle in different ways with divine justice, human suffering, and moral order. Solon warns Croesus not to call any man happy until his life is over. Fortune changes. The gods can overturn prosperity. This is not pessimism only. It is an ethic of humility. Human beings see a moment and call it completion. The gods, fate, or time may reveal otherwise. Greek wisdom often begins with not trusting the present too much. The old sanctuaries are quiet now. At Delphi, visitors walk among stones where cities once placed treasuries and where the Pythia's voice once carried Apollo's danger. At Olympia, the stadium lies open under the sky, and the temple of Zeus is broken. At Eleusis, the secret is still secret because the people who knew it kept faith with silence. On the Acropolis, the Parthenon stands scarred, restored, contested, and luminous in ruin. The statue of Athena is gone. The goddess is gone from her house. But absence itself has become a kind of presence. Ancient Greek religion did not offer simple comfort. It did not say the world was fair. It did not promise that good people would always be rewarded or that suffering always had a clear moral explanation. It showed a world of brilliant powers, partial justice, dangerous beauty, inherited guilt, sacred obligation, and mortal limits. It asked humans to honor what was greater than themselves and to remember that intelligence, courage, beauty, and skill do not make a person immune to fate. That may be why these gods still matter. They belong to a civilization that looked at the world without sanding away its contradictions. The sea is necessary and cruel. Love is beautiful and ruinous. War is glorious and disgusting. Wisdom is powerful but not omnipotent. Law protects and can be broken by power. The harvest returns and disappears. The dead are gone and still demand remembrance. The divine is near and not safe. In the end, Olympus is less a place than a way of imagining the forces around human life. The Greeks placed those forces in a family because life itself is relational. Power has a wife. Desire quarrels with craft. War can be mocked. Wisdom can be born from the head of sovereignty. Wine can create theater. Grief can stop the seasons. A messenger can cross into death and return. A hearth can be more central than a throne. The mountain remains in northern Greece, often wrapped in cloud. To look at it is to understand why people imagine gods above it. The peak rises high enough to seem separate from ordinary life, but close enough to be seen. That is the Greek divine world. Beyond humans, but not beyond sight, immortal, but human-shaped, dangerous, but approachable with offerings, strange, but spoken of in names. Somewhere, long ago, wine darkened the soil at an altar. Smoke rose. A prayer was spoken. A city waited for rain, victory, children, healing, safe return, or forgiveness. The god did not have to answer. The god was not under human command, but the act of speaking mattered. It placed human fear and hope into a form the world could hear. The gods of Olympus are no longer worshipped across the Greek world as they once were. Their fires are out. Their sacrifices have ceased. Their great processions are gone. But the questions they carried have not ended. How should power be used? How should desire be survived? How should wisdom act in a violent world? How should the dead be honored? How should cities remember their limits? What does beauty demand? What does grief do to the earth? How can human beings live under forces they can neither master nor ignore? The Greeks answered with gods. The answers were never simple. That is why they still speak, quietly and powerfully. Sleep well. Good night.